Picture this, you're 19 years old, walking home from work. Police lights flash behind you. Within 48 hours, you're charged with a crime you didn't commit. Within 6 months, you're sentenced to life in prison. And here's the worst part, the DNA evidence that could have saved you. It was sitting in a box, untested, for 23 years. This is not fiction. This is the story of Marcus Thompson, and it's happening more often than you think. Marcus Thompson was born in Detroit, Michigan, in 1977. He was the middle child of 3 kids, raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table. By all accounts, Marcus was what people called a good kid. He stayed out of trouble, graduated high school, and worked the night shift at a local warehouse to help his mom with bills. He had dreams. Simple dreams. Marcus wanted to save enough money to go to community college and study automotive repair. He loved cars, always had since he was a little boy watching his grandfather fix up old Chevys in the driveway. On March 14, 1996, Marcus was 19 years old. It was a Thursday night, cold and rainy. He clocked out from his shift at 11 p.m. and started the 15-minute walk home through his neighborhood. He stopped at a corner store, bought a soda and some chips, and the security camera caught him there at 11:18 p.m. By 11:45 p.m., he was home. His mother remembers him coming through the door, soaking wet, complaining about the rain. He ate his chips, watched some TV with her mother, and went to bed around 1 a.m. The next morning, police surrounded their house. A woman had been attacked in her home 3 blocks away around midnight. It was a brutal assault. She was a 32-year-old teacher named Sarah Mitchell, beloved in the community. The attacker had broken in through a back window, assaulted her, and fled. She survived, thank God, but she was traumatized and badly injured. Police had found hair samples at the scene. They had found fingerprints on the windowsill. But what they focused on was this. The victim said her attacker was a young black man, around 6 feet tall, wearing a dark jacket. Marcus was a young black man. He was 6 feet tall. He owned a dark jacket. That was enough. When police knocked on the door that morning, Marcus had no idea what was happening. His mother answered, confused and terrified. They asked Marcus to come down to the station for questioning. Just routine, they said. Just need to ask you a few questions. Marcus went willingly. Why wouldn't he? He had nothing to hide. He didn't know that this decision would cost him half his life. At the station, they asked him about his whereabouts the night before. He told them the truth, work. The corner store, home. They asked if he knew Sarah Mitchell. He didn't. They asked if he'd ever been on Oakwood Avenue, where she lived. Maybe, he said, he didn't really know the street names. That maybe would be used against him. They showed him a photo lineup. 6 pictures of young black men. The victim, still recovering in the hospital, identified Marcus. She was 80% sure, she said. That became 100% sure by the time the trial started. Marcus Thompson was arrested and charged with breaking and entering, assault, and attempted murder. He was 19 years old. Here's where this story gets dark. Really dark. Marcus couldn't afford a lawyer. The court appointed him a public defender, a young attorney named David Chin who was handling 87 cases at the same time. David was a good person, but he was drowning. He met with Marcus 3 times before the trial. 3 times. The prosecution's case was thin, but in 1996, it didn't need to be thick. They had a victim identification, even though cross-racial identifications are wrong 40% of the time. Marcus's vague statement about maybe being on that street, the fact that he fit the description, and one more thing, a hair sample. A forensic analyst testified that the hair found at the scene was consistent with Marcus's hair. Not a match. Not definitive. Just consistent with. But to a jury, it sounded like science. It sounded like proof. What the jury didn't hear was this: the corner store security footage that showed Marcus at 11:18 p.m., 3 blocks away from the crime scene. The prosecution argued he had time to get there. Barely, but maybe. His mother testified that he was home by 11:45 p.m. The prosecution painted her as a mother protecting her son. Would you lie for your child? They asked the jury. Wouldn't any mother? The fingerprints on the windowsill that didn't match Marcus's. The prosecution said the attacker wore gloves. Then how did the hair get there? No answer. And here's the big one: there was DNA. Biological evidence from the attack. In 1996, DNA testing was still relatively new and expensive. Marcus's lawyer requested testing. The judge denied it, saying the hair evidence was sufficient. The DNA was never tested. It was logged into evidence, labeled, and stored in a box in the police property room. The trial lasted 5 days. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. They came back with a verdict: guilty on all counts. Marcus Thompson was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. In the courtroom, his mother screamed. Marcus stood there, numb, unable to process what was happening. He kept saying, "I didn't do this. I didn't do this." Nobody was listening anymore. Sarah Mitchell, the victim, cried tears of relief. She believed justice had been served. She believed the man who attacked her was going to prison. She was wrong. But she didn't know that yet. Marcus was sent to a maximum security prison in central Michigan. He was 20 years old by the time he arrived. The youngest inmate in his cell block. Prison is hard. Prison when you're innocent? It's a special kind of hell. Marcus didn't belong there, and everyone could sense it. He didn't have the hardness, the edge that career criminals develop. Other inmates either tried to break him or, surprisingly, protect him. Some believed his story. Most didn't care. He spent his 21st birthday in a cell. His 25th. His 30th. His 35th. His mother visited every month for the first 10 years, making the 3-hour drive in her old car that barely ran. She never stopped believing him. She never stopped fighting. Marcus filed appeal after appeal. Every one was denied. He wrote letters to Innocence projects, to lawyers, to journalists. Most went unanswered. The few that responded said the same thing, without new evidence. There was nothing they could do. The years dragged on. Marcus educated himself in prison, reading every law book he could get his hands on. He became a jailhouse lawyer, helping other inmates with their cases. If he couldn't free himself, maybe he could help someone else. But inside, the hope was dying. When you scream your innocence for 10 years and nobody listens, eventually, you start to wonder if your voice even makes a sound. Then, in 2014, something changed. In 2014, a new law passed in Michigan. It required that all biological evidence from violent crimes committed after 1990 be DNA tested using modern technology, even in cases where someone had already been convicted. It was part of a national push to address wrongful convictions. The state began working through a backlog of thousands of cases. It took them 5 years to get to Marcus Thompson's case. In January 2019, a lab technician named Jennifer Rodriguez pulled the evidence box from Marcus's case. She found the biological evidence, still sealed, still preserved. She ran the DNA test. The results came back in March 2019. The DNA did not match Marcus Thompson. Not even close. Jennifer immediately flagged the case. She called her supervisor. They called the prosecutor's office. And then, something remarkable happened. The prosecutor actually listened. The DNA was run through CODIS, the FBI's combined DNA index system, which contains DNA profiles from convicted offenders across the country. Within days, they had a match. The real attacker was a man named Robert Hayes. He was currently serving time in an Ohio prison for a similar attack he committed in 1998. His DNA was in the system from that conviction. Robert Hayes had never lived in Detroit. He was passing through in 1996, committing crimes across several states before he was finally caught in Ohio. He fit the description the victim gave. His DNA was at the scene. And when investigators showed Sarah Mitchell a photo lineup that included Robert Hayes, she identified him immediately. "That's him," she said, with absolute certainty. "That's the man who attacked me." Marcus Thompson had spent 23 years in prison for a crime Robert Hayes committed. The prosecutor's office moved quickly to correct the injustice. They filed a motion to vacate Marcus's conviction. In May 2019, Marcus Thompson walked into court for the first time in over 2 decades. He was 42 years old now. His hair was graying at the temples. His mother, now 68 and in poor health, sat in the front row, crying. The judge reviewed the DNA evidence. He reviewed the new investigation. And then he said the words Marcus had been waiting 23 years to hear. "Mr. Thompson, this court finds that you were wrongfully convicted. Your conviction is hereby vacated. You are free to go." The courtroom erupted. Marcus collapsed into his mother's arms. The guards who had escorted him in, some of whom had known him for years and believed in his innocence, wiped tears from their eyes. Marcus walked out of that courthouse a free man, but freedom doesn't erase 23 years. Think about that for a moment. Marcus went into prison at 20. He came out at 42. He missed his entire adult life. He missed his grandmother's funeral. He missed his little sister's wedding. He missed his brother becoming a father. Marcus has a niece and nephew he'd never met. His mother's health had deteriorated from the stress. She had aged decades in those years. Marcus never got to go to college. Never got to become an auto mechanic. Never got to fall in love, get married, have kids. Never got to be 25 and stupid, or 30 and figuring things out, or 35 and settling down. 23 years. Gone. For a crime he didn't commit. And here's the thing that will make your blood boil. The DNA evidence that proved his innocence had been available the entire time. It was sitting in a box. All they had to do was test it. Marcus's lawyer requested it in 1996. The judge said no. If that judge had said yes, Marcus would have been free in months, not decades. One decision. One test. 23 years. So what happened next? How do you compensate someone for 23 stolen years? Michigan has a compensation law for wrongful convictions. Marcus received $50,000 for every year he was wrongfully imprisoned. That's $1.15 million, minus taxes and legal fees. It sounds like a lot of money. But break it down, it's about $136 per day he spent in prison. About $5.68 per hour. Would you trade your freedom for $5.68 an hour? The money helps, but it doesn't heal. Marcus struggled massively when he was released. He had PTSD from his years in prison. He had trouble adjusting to technology, smartphones, social media, streaming services, all things that didn't exist or were brand new when he went in. He had trouble finding work because of the 23-year gap on his resume. His mother helped him adjust, but she passed away in 2021, just 2 years after his release. Marcus said the stress of his case killed her slowly, over decades. Now, you might be wondering, what about the real attacker? What happened to Robert Hayes? Robert Hayes is still in prison in Ohio. He was charged with Sarah Mitchell's assault in 2019, but because of legal complications with statutes of limitations, he couldn't be prosecuted. He's serving time for other crimes, and he'll likely die in prison. Sarah Mitchell, the victim, was devastated when she learned the truth. She met with Marcus in 2020. It was emotional and difficult, but necessary. She apologized to him, even though it wasn't her fault. She was a victim too, victimized first by Robert Hayes, and then by a justice system that rushed to close the case rather than get it right. I believe the police, she told a reporter. I believe the prosecutor. I trusted the system. And the system failed both of us. Here's what you need to understand. Marcus Thompson's story is not unique. It's not even rare. Since 1989, more than 3,000 people in the United States have been exonerated after wrongful convictions. 3,000 lives destroyed by a system that's supposed to protect us. DNA evidence has played a role in over 375 of those exonerations. The average exoneree serves 14 years before being freed. 14 years. For crimes they didn't commit. And here's the scary part. These are just the ones we know about. These are the cases where someone kept fighting, where evidence was preserved, where someone in the system cared enough to look again. How many Marcus Thompsons are still in prison right now, screaming their innocence to walls that don't listen? How many people convicted on shaky eyewitness testimony, on consistent hair evidence, on coerced confessions? We don't know. We can't know. But the number is almost certainly higher than 3,000. Marcus Thompson is 47 years old now. He works as an advocate for criminal justice reform, traveling to colleges and speaking to law students about the flaws in the system. He's been dating someone for 2 years, his first real relationship. He's learning to live again, slowly. But he'll never get those 23 years back. The DNA evidence that could have saved him was there all along. All someone had to do was test it. If this story made you angry, good. It should. Because this isn't just about Marcus Thompson. This is about a system that values speed over accuracy, convictions over truth, and finality over justice. And until we demand better, it will keep happening. What would you do if this happened to you? Leave a comment below. And if you want to hear more stories like this, subscribe and hit that notification bell. These stories need to be told.